Okay, buongiorno, buongiorno, buonasera. I hope you can hear me as usual. I'll just give it a couple of seconds. È bellissimo essere qui con voi anche questa sera. Really excited to be here with you again tonight. We have a bunch of things to talk about, so I'll just see who's on the line and I'll start answering your questions. I already have a few questions, so we could start with those. But first thing, a couple of things I want to talk about so that everybody is on the same page. Oops, sorry, it's my feedback. Here we go. So first thing, apologies for emails being sent randomly. I'm gonna have to talk to the company helping me run the webinars. It seems like their emails never get sent at the right time. So I think you were told that we were live at 9:30 Universal Standard Time instead of 10 o'clock. Apologies for that. I'll look into it so that there's less confusion. The other thing that I really want to address before we start with your questions is understanding how the course is structured. So maybe I wasn't clear when I was in my promotional page, but the idea is that this is a concentrated 5-week course that pretty much covers what is usually covered in a standard course over 10 weeks, plus more because there's a lot of extra stuff in this course. So the idea is that it's really the perfect course if you are in a rush to go to Italy. You're going to Italy next month, you're going to Italy in a couple of months, and you don't have a lot of time to learn a lot of Italian over a long period of time, then the course is structured this way. So there's 5 weeks and there's daily content. Now, except for Mondays, which are usually bigger because that's when I introduce the content, there's a little bit every day. Now, there's two things I want to remind you. If you don't have a lot of time, just focus on the video that auto plays when you load the page for any new day. You should watch that one. And then underneath any video with an asterisk is the one that you should watch so that you can keep up with the main content, which is what we're learning, the core of what we're learning, so that you can participate in the live sessions, because that's what we talk about. Now, I realize that it could be a lot of content because we don't always have half an hour a day. But so that is if you're in a hurry. If you're not, if you have more time to go over the content, then you don't have to consume the content every day as I send it out to you. Now, of course, the live sessions are based on that week's content. So this could be a problem. But something that I think I haven't really explained to you is that as a student of the course, see, right now, we're building this course together. This is the second round, and I'm still working on adding content so that it really satisfies your needs. My idea is that as soon as I feel comfortable opening up to a lot of people, then the idea is that every week I will have live sessions at level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So as in every week you'll be able to join a live chat that is either a week 1 level, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, which means you can consume this content at any pace, really, because if you're behind, well, maybe in 5 weeks' time you'll be ready to join a chat for week 2. You'll have a chance to join a chat for week 2. So this is something that I think I didn't make clear to you. So this is something that I think you should bear in mind. If you can keep up with the pace, as in you're in need to go to Italy in a month or so, then try and keep up. If you don't have a lot of time, focus on the videos that I've marked as essential. Still participate in the live chat, even if you haven't covered the content. Being in a live chat like tomorrow, you'll see, if you haven't done it, you learn so much, and I hope somebody can confirm that you do learn a lot from a live chat, even just by watching what other people are doing. Even if you sit there quietly, I'll still interact with you. I'll still kind of put you on the spot, and you'll be able to get out of that situation with whatever Italian you know, and that's going to give you the confidence to keep going. So, buongiorno o buonasera a tutti. Siamo pronti per cominciare. Sono le 8:04 qui in Australia. Sono le 11:04 a Londra. E Che ore sono a New York? Che ore sono a New York? So anybody knows that what that means? Well, you don't need to know what that means because I did that, right? Che ore sono a New York? So I have to wait a minute for the usual delay to see if somebody can answer my question. I have a sense I know who's going to answer. So let me see who's on the line so I can greet you properly. Ok, buongiorno Cheryl, buongiorno. Buongiorno, buonasera Sakis. Ciao Ed, buongiorno Ed. Buongiorno Graham. Oh, I thought Laurie was on the line. I think she is. And ciao, buonasera Laurie, buonasera. Okay, so while I wait for somebody to answer that question, che ore sono a New York, I will start answering your questions. Now, I have a few questions. I can say something about this particular group. I think you're really, really interested in learning Italian. I mean, I think the ratio of people wanting to take the course as what it is, as in survival Italy and simplified Italy, compared to the ones who are really interested in learning the whole thing, is tipping towards the people who are really interested. And so I'll do what I can to help you out. Buonasera Paula, buonasera. I'll do what I can to help you out, but I still don't want to give you too much information because it might confuse the other students. So whatever I say, I will specify you don't need this to still be understood. So don't worry if I get a little bit too difficult or too technical. I'm there to tell you you don't really need that. You can do without that. That's how I'm kind of designing, working out the course. So what time is it in New York? That's what I asked, but what's the answer? Say, che ore sono a New York? Le 16 a New York? Le 16? Forse sì, forse le 16 o le 4. Well, Ed, you just made me think about something about how Italy works with the time. Now, we're not really going to look into the time in the course because these days we all have mobile phones. So even if we don't have a watch, we know the time. So we're not going to ask what the time is. We'll touch on the time quickly because it's going to serve you to understand when things happen, like the train leaves at 5 o'clock. So you still need to understand the time, but we're not going to work on getting you to say the time. It's not essential for travel these days. Okay, but yeah, something that I think we'll get to that, but Italy uses the 24-hour clock. So it's similar to Australia, but if you're in America, this could be a problem. I've been teaching a lot of Americans at the university, for example, here, and it seems like you guys have a hard time working with it because you don't use it at all. And so it's a little bit awkward. So the idea is that you add 12. So if somebody says 16, so you subtract 12 if you're coming back. So 16 minus 12 is 4, so it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The way we use the 24-hour clock in Italy, though, I think it's similar to Australia. So we use it for official things like timetables, like mostly departures, like TV shows and airplanes and flights. That's when we would use the 24-hour clock. But in conversation, we don't really need to use it. If I'm asking you, stasera prendiamo una birra? Stasera prendiamo una birra? Are we having a beer tonight? And then I said, alle 8, I can say at 8 o'clock, because there's no point saying at 20 hours, because we're having a beer tonight. It's understood that it's 8 in the evening. So when we speak, we don't actually use the 24-hour clock a lot. We use it more when it's official times. Anyway, let's start with the questions. I'll pick the ones at the level, and then if there's more time, I'll talk about the ones that are beyond our level. So Janet wants to know, can you use the phrase sto dando un'occhiata? Sto dando un'occhiata. Remember what that means? I'm only having a look. In restaurants, when waiters come to take your order and you need more time to look at the menu, Yes, in a way. Let me show you how that works. All right. So you could say, sto dando un'occhiata al menù. Sto dando un'occhiata al menù. Or, honestly, this is the case when it's even better to not use the ing form. Like, sto dando means I am giving a look, which is great for shops because that's what you're doing. You are giving a look. For the menu, I think it would make more sense to say do un'occhiata al menù, which means I'm going to give a look at the menu. So it's even simpler. You just say do un'occhiata al menù. I'm going to have a look at the menu because that's something you are going to do. Do un'occhiata al menù. So that, yeah, you can use that expression. In most cases, the waiter will give you the menu and say, torno fra 5 minuti. Torno, return. Torno fra 5 minuti. So you understood the torno and 5 minuti. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Torno fra 5 minuti. Okay, so this one has been answered. Now, Laurie wants to know. I'll come back to Laurie's questions because they're pretty tricky. Okay, Ed. Showing my agreement in Italian is probably easier by using va bene. That's cool. Va bene, or simply va bene is the Italian meaning translation of okay. Now Italians do use okay. You just make it sound like Italian okay. But yes, va bene is the equivalent. Or which one did you have? I lost it. Or anch'io. Anch'io, me too. Depending on the situation, you're gonna agree with va bene or anch'io. That's right. I have also heard the word d'accordo, to use to agree or confirm something. Is d'accordo useful? Another useful alternative? Yes, it is. D'accordo. I'm going to spell it. Oops. D'accordo. So d'accordo is what it literally means. I agree. I am in agreement, accordance. Kind of to help you remember. So d'accordo is like if somebody says ci vediamo alle 8? Shall we meet at 8 o'clock? And you can say, yeah, d'accordo. I agree with you. D'accordo. It could be used in other contexts, like for example, yeah, usually it's for plans. As in, are you okay going there tomorrow? D'accordo. But another example would be, even a waiter could say that. If you say prendo gli spaghetti alla carbonara, you having spaghetti carbonara, and they ask you con parmigiano o pecorino. So do you want parmigiano, cheese, or pecorino, another cheese? And you say pecorino. Then they might say, d'accordo, yeah, cool, got it. So it's another way of agreeing. And so let's talk about gender agreement, because I think this still confuses you. Whenever you can use any of these expressions and you don't have to worry about gender, because va bene literally means it goes well. So what you said is well. So it's not about yourself. So it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. Va bene doesn't have to change because it's about it. Anch'io literally means also I. So there is no gender in that because I is genderless. So a man and a woman can say anch'io. And then this one, d'accordo, you could be tricked into thinking I should change it into feminine, but d'accordo it's not describing yourself. It's really, like I said, it's accordance. So it's a thing. It's a noun, and accordance, which is a silly word, but so accordance is its own word and it's got its own gender. So d'accordo, that's what it is. You don't have to change it. It's not about yourself. You're not describing yourself. So I hope this helps so that you don't get confused with gender, because I understand it could be difficult. Okay, so going back to sto dando un'occhiata, Ed says, sto dando un'occhiata uses the gerund form, or you know so much, the ing form pretty much, of the infinitive dare. I understand that the phrase is very useful when we enter shops, but is the gerund form of any other verb also something we should know and use? Great question. So what Ed is talking about is the ing form. Now Italian does the ing. You know, in English we add ing to a verb, like work becomes working. I'm exaggerating. Well, Italian does the same thing, adding most of the times ando, sometimes endo, or ando or endo, that's two. Ando for other verbs and endo for the other two verbs, two types of verbs. So parlare would become parlando, speaking. Mangiare would become mangiando. My advice to you is, if you want to use it, all you need to know is the verb to stay, which we don't know yet, and then the ing form of the verb. So if you want to say, I am eating, you would not say I am like sono. Italian uses the verb to stay. So we're literally saying I stay speaking. So if you want to use it, you could get confused because you might use the verb to be, like English, but we use the verb to stay, stare. You can look it up, it's irregular. But the I form is sto. Now this is one of the things that I want to warn you. You don't have to do it. You don't have to worry if you want to keep it simple. The present tense in Italian covers the ing form. The present tense covers the general statement, the ing form, and the future tense. So you don't need to use it. If you want to use it, I am doing whatever, it's going to be sto plus the verb altered into ando. Sto parlando, I am speaking. Sto studiando, I am studying. Now, so Italian has it. Do you need to worry about it? Not so much. Italian tends to use the ing form a lot less than English. Like in English, we use it all the time. In Italian, because the present tense covers it already, we would use the ing form only when it's really the focus of the point I'm making is the continuity of what I'm doing. So a time when I would use it is if I'm talking to somebody and you come in and try and talk to me, like interrupting me, then I would say, hey, sto parlando. It's like saying I am in the process of speaking, and the point I'm trying to make is that I am in the process of it, not the fact that I speak. So it's useful, but I don't think it's that essential if you're just traveling. There's not going to be many situations when you need to specify, hey, buddy, I am in the process of doing this thing. So most of the times, you know, if you said studio italiano, I study Italian, that's the general statement. It can be perceived as I am studying Italian. You would need to say sto studiando italiano if you are really on the books and I walk in and I say, prendiamo un caffè? Prendiamo un caffè? Shall we have a coffee? And you can't because you're studying Italian, then you could say sto studiando italiano, which means I have no time right now. So Ed, yes, you can use the ing form, just don't overuse it. You need to use the verb to stay, which you can easily look up, and the I form is simply sto. But I wouldn't go crazy about it because we don't use it as much. So it would sound awkward if you used it all the time like we do in English. Okay. I'm just having a look at the questions. All right. Okay, going back to what I was saying about the time. Now Ed is asking, what if we need to make reservations by the phone and we need to specify the time? Yes, that's what I was saying. You're not going to need the expression, excuse me, sir, what's the time? Or being able to tell the time. But you need to know the time to specify when things happen, and we'll look into that, but it's a lot simpler than having to ask people what the time is or having to tell the time. Here you'd only have to say I need a table for 5 o'clock. So that's a really simple expression, and we'll look into that, yes. All right. Okay, so now Laurie pointed out something really cool, really useful. When we talked about vorrei meaning I would like. Well, she's pointing out that yes, we can say vorrei vedere questo, vorrei vedere quello, vorrei vedere questa felpa, questa t-shirt, vorrei vedere un cappello, vorrei vedere le scarpe nere. So vorrei vedere o vorrei mangiare means I would like to eat, I would like to see. So vorrei can be followed by a verb in the infinitive, which means the dictionary entry, right? So vorrei plus the verb. Per esempio, vorrei parlare, I would like to speak to the manager, vorrei parlare con il manager. So what Laurie is saying, could I use mi piace plus the verb? Yes, you can. So you could say mi piace, followed by a verb, dictionary entry of the verb. Mi piace parlare italiano, I like to speak Italian. Mi piace mangiare fuori, I like to eat out. Mi piace visitare i musei, I like to visit museums. So yes, and all these little phrases are a great way for you to avoid having to conjugate verbs, because you have to only use the verb that you already know, like mi piace or vorrei, and then the main verb, you don't have to worry about changing it into something. You just keep it as dictionary entry. So it's a really good way out of being able to say more without having to worry too much. And we'll learn a lot more. Another one that I think I mentioned was posso, I can or can I. Like, posso parlare? Can I speak? Posso entrare? Can I come in? So whenever you're asking for permission, or whether it's got to do with possibility, as in is it possible to do something, you can use the same structure. And again, all you have to do is say posso, I can, or can I. So it's an easier way of speaking. Vorrei, posso, mi piace, they're all great ways of simplifying your sentences, and then just have a verb as a dictionary entry. Okay. Okay. Now, are there any more questions about what we did this week? So we looked into plurals. Now, did that confuse anybody? So plurals. I'll touch on plurals quickly. So plurals, the idea is that for nouns, for things, it's easier to understand because English has a plural for those. Like we have glasses, we have pens, telephones. So it's easier to understand the concept. Now, because you know that in Italian things have gender, male and female, then you understand that there's not one plural, but there's two possible plurals, two possible singulars. So we have 4 endings for nouns most of the time. So we have masculine nouns usually end with o. So we have my usual bini, like cappello, telefono, cucchiaio, cucchiaino, coltello. Now all these things, these are nouns, they're things. When they go plural, they end with e most of the times, and if they don't, they will do anyway, don't worry. So cappelli, telefoni, cucchiai, cucchiaini, coltelli. So that's what you do with nouns. Now feminine nouns in the singular end with a. So you would have penna, forchetta. What else do I have that is feminine here? Not much, really. Okay. Carta di credito, carta. So all these, oh, here's another one, look at this. It's a batteria, it's a batteria, it's a battery. So these are all feminine words because they end with a. if you have to talk about the same things in the plural, they will just change the word into an A ending. So we would have forchette, penne, carte, and batterie for batteries. So that's what you have to worry about. Now, we also looked at some words that end in E in the singular, like pane, cane. There's a bunch of them. Their plural is in E, but if you want to keep it simple, just don't worry about those. You know, there's a bunch of words that you need to know, like, you know, cane, because you'll see dogs, and pane, bread. But other words, don't worry about them ending in A. You can totally do without and making little mistakes. The one thing that can be confusing, I think, as a learner of a foreign language, Italian specifically, or a Latin-based language, is that the adjectives, the qualities, the things that we say about the things, the objects, have to also reflect the gender and the number, meaning singular or plural. So, and the endings are the same as I've just given you. But now, the difference between a noun and an adjective, like a thing, the object, of course you can have nouns that are not objects, like you can have love being a noun. It's not an object, but it's still a thing. But look at the dictionary. If it tells you that it's a noun, then it's a thing, right? So it's going to have its own gender. You can't change it. An adjective, on the other hand, changes every time, because you could describe anything. Now, the only example I have in English is the idea of beauty. If you describe a female, then you will say pretty. If you describe a male, you don't say pretty, you'll say handsome. So the same adjective, even though it's different words in English, you have to change it based on the gender. Italian does that for the gender, but it also does it for the number. So it's like saying, I'm just gonna bend English. One pretty girl, two pretties girls. So everything goes plural, because it's the girls that I'm talking about. One handsome boy, two handsome boys. So that's what we're doing in Italian. Everything that describes the subject, the girl or the boy, has to become plural, because we're talking about them in the plural. So the endings are the same though. So if I'm going to use the adjective, the word bello, because it's the easiest one that we're all familiar with. So if I want to say a beautiful telephone, the Italian puts the quality after the noun, so we actually say a telephone beautiful. Now, it's not a tragedy if you forget this and you put your adjective before. Like I mentioned in one of the videos, you sound like a Shakespearean speaker of Italian. It's a little bit poetic, but it's still understood, okay? So if you can, remember to put the quality after the thing you're describing, but okay. So, un telefono bello, one beautiful telephone. Un cucchiaio bello, one beautiful spoon. I have another beanie here. Un cappello bello, a beautiful hat. What else did I have before? I forgot. Un cucchiaino bello, a pretty teaspoon. Okay. So if I were to talk about them in the plural, if this would be telefoni for telephones, then I would say due telefoni belli. I would say due telefoni belli. Two beautiful telephones. So I'm making the adjective plural as well. You do the same for every other word. So let's talk about how much do you need to do this. As a traveler, in most cases, it'll be okay if you forget to do plurals, especially also if you may have plural of the object but not the plural of the adjective. So, you know, if I said due telefoni bello, in most cases it'll be okay, because, you know, you said two telephones and then you said beautiful in the singular. It's fine, they'll understand you. That's what you really have to assess what is the situation? Is there any chance of confusion? And sometimes it's hard for you, English thinker, to see that there would be confusion for an Italian, but I think I mentioned an example. If you're at the restaurant and you've had pizza, but on the table you also have beer, bread, wine, water, Coke, whatever you have, and you want to say this pizza was great tasting, like buonissima. If you said buonissimo, the waiter would not think that you're talking about the pizza because it just doesn't match in their brain, because pizza is feminine, so you have to say buonissima. So think about the situation. If it's not a big deal, it's okay to not worry too much about this, but if you have different possibilities, different items, if you're shopping for clothes, which is what we did this week, and they've just shown you una camicia, un maglione, a sweater, e una t-shirt. Well, two of these objects are feminine, one is masculine. So you gotta be able to describe the right one in the right way. Of course, a nicer way out is to touch the object that you're describing all the time. You know, so if you can't do that, then it's a little bit safer because it's less confusing if you're being specific about the object you're describing. All right, so are there any more questions? Otherwise, I can start talking about what Marie asked. She has a good question. I just didn't think it's not essential. So, oh, Graham, good question. What about collective nouns and you're describing both male and female together? Oh, good question. So it's actually something that most Latin-based languages do, but we could say that Italian is pretty chauvinistic as a language. So anytime you have a mixed group of genders, we address the whole thing as masculine. So as a teacher, if I have 19 girls in my classroom and one boy, I will talk to them in the masculine. Now, if the boy goes, then I'll talk to the group in the feminine, but if the boy comes back, the group becomes masculine. So this applies for anything. If I'm describing forchetta e coltello, one masculine, one feminine, I would say sono belli. They're beautiful, but I'll talk about them in the masculine. So definitely, when in doubt, make things masculine, which is easier because that's what the dictionary will give you anyway. So in a way, we can be grateful to Italian opting for masculine more of the time because it's easier for you to actually work with the masculine because you don't have to change it. Okay, I'll give you a minute to think of other questions. Otherwise, I'll address what I consider to be a little bit advanced questions. Right. So, let me prepare for these questions. I have three that I can talk about. Like I said, I consider them to be slightly advanced questions. So if you are not looking to become fluent in Italian eventually, you don't have to do this. You don't have to worry about what I'm going to talk about. One of them can be useful in a way. Like it could apply to you, and it's something that I didn't mention in the videos because I thought it'd be confusing a little bit too much. But you could sometimes use it. So let's have a look if there are any more questions that are really relating to this level, week 2. Now I don't know if the video is today or tomorrow, but I think there's a video coming up on buying groceries, which is a similar skill to shopping, but there's a little bit more interaction, and there is a variety of expressions that you need to use. So I can't remember if I've already opened that video up. I think it's coming up tomorrow. But we'll look into, you know, because you buy things by the kilo and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that. But it's very similar to shopping as what we've done so far. All right, so there are no questions, I think, about this week. So I will answer Marie's question, which is, can you please explain why caffè and perché have different accents? At first, I thought it was because one was pronounced e and the other e, but the endings sound the same to me. And I already replied personally to Marie, but I think I can address this in public format. Oops. Ah. Sorry. I just... Okay. All right, so Italian has... Just forgive me for a second. Okay. I'm back. I had a little bit of a technical problem. Just wanted to make sure that I was still broadcasting. So, in Italian, let's talk about pronunciation in general, so like we can get to this point and see how it can be useful for everybody. I've already included a couple of pronunciation videos in the week 0 content, so if you haven't looked at that, please do. I also have a course called Speak Italian Like in Italiano. It's currently available at udemy.com, but I'll make sure that I'll import everything into this platform so you can actually access the course directly from this website. It's also going to be a little bit cheaper because over there I pay a huge amount of commissions. If I can offer it myself, then it's going to be cheaper. But pronunciation is key, even if you don't care about becoming fluent. I'm pretty big on pronunciation, and mainly because I never cared about pronouncing English well because I didn't like English when I started. And then it was years later that I became interested in English, but I had picked up already a lot of bad habits. And now it's never gonna change too much because that's how I speak. And of course, in most cases, I am understood, so it's not a problem. Now, also, we got to think about English speakers. I think are more used to hearing people speak their language with an accent, whereas because English being such an international language, you know, everybody, no matter what their culture is, does speak English in a way. So you know, you've heard Germans speak English, you've heard Italians speak English, you've heard Spanish speaking, so you know what we sound like. So I think it's easier for English speakers to hear somebody who speaks English with an accent, but Italians are not really used to hearing Italian not spoken clearly. And if you have to choose between having correct grammar and correct pronunciation, you honestly should go for correct pronunciation first. That's not what we do as grown-ups. We're obsessed with, I want to speak correctly and I need to be proper. There's no point being proper if you pronounce in such an English way that they can't understand. And that's why even English words, you can have to Italianize them because they're not used to hearing words the way we would say them. So just to give you an example, if I said, I don't know, what's a good English word that we use in Italy? There's so many, but if I said, you know, sports, they're not going to understand. Sport, it has to be sport. You have to pronounce it the way they would understand. So even with English words, you gotta have to Italianize them. Can you imagine what happens when you speak Italian with a strong English accent? They're not gonna be able to understand, even if your grammar is perfect. So work on your accent. The way you improve your accent is just focus on the vowels, have clear a, e, I, o, u, and you're fine. So what Marie is saying is that she's noticed that Italian vowels all look like this. I mean, not all, but it's gonna take me a while because I'm really bad at typing with accents. So when you see a word in Italian that ends with an accent, that's the only time we use accents. And by the way, it's not like French that has accents in the middle of the word. If Italian has an accent, it's only on the last vowel. What that tells you is that you have to stress the word there. That's why we say caffè. We're stressing the fe. If there was no accent, we'd say caffè. But we're saying caffè, caffè. So the typical example that I give is this. They're not the same word. The first one has no accent, which means we're stressing the beginning of the word. We say papa, papa. That's the Pope. The second one, we're stressing the final syllable. We're saying papa, papa, and that's daddy, your father. So papa, papa. So an accent makes a huge difference in the way a word sounds. Now, Italian, for these 4 vowels, a, I, o, u, there's only one way of putting an accent, which is this one. I think I'm gonna have to do this so that it matches the way you can see this in the video. I can't do it because I think it's mirrored image anyway. But you can see the accent. So that's the only accent that a, I, o, u have. The problem is that E has 2 accents that are possible. And Marie was right. One accent, the first one, is the representation of the E. You know, Italian has 2 E's, 2 sounds for the E vowel. E open and E closed. So E is like egg and E is like A. Hey, hey. So it's a little bit closer. Doesn't really exist in English, but so what Italian is doing by having 2 different accents is it's telling you the fact that you see an accent, it means that you're stressing that syllable. But which accent you see is going to tell you which sound of the E you're going to produce. So the first one, which I'm going to separate, the top one, that's E. So when you look at caffè, it's got that one, so we say caffè, caffè. The E is very open. If I use the other one, I would say caffè, caffè. I find it really hard to say because I'm so used to caffè, so I'm not going to do it. The second vowel, the bottom one, it's still telling you that you're stressing that syllable, but you're making that E sound E. So you're not actually opening up the sound into an E. So when you ask why, the word for why is perché. As you can hear, I'm stressing the che, I say perché, but I'm not opening up the E into an E, perché. Having said this, so Marie, you were right about your sense, your guessing. The problem is that Italians don't do it. I do it. I think I'm one of the few now. It depends on where you were born in Italy and what version of Italian you speak. The fact is that most Italians don't get it right. In the north of Italy, instead of perché, they would say perché. The same in Sicily, they will open up the E. So we can't really say that it's wrong. It's not the prescribed way. And if you were, petulant about, oh, this accent, you should have said perché. But that's how they speak, so it's totally correct. So as a learner of Italian or as a traveler, I actually don't think it's bad. I even think it's good if you make a mistake here, because it's pretty cool when you speak a foreign language and you speak it with a certain variant. For example, my brother-in-law, he's from North Africa, and so he entered Italy through Naples, and now he lives in Rome with my family. But he speaks Italian like a Napoletano, like a person from Naples, and that's cute and it's great, to see a Tunisian who speaks Napoletano. I think it's wonderful. So, sometimes when I speak English, people say, "Oh, you've got you got an Aussie accent." Well, Aussie is very generic. It'd be nicer if I had a Queensland accent, which I do sometimes. I think it's really cute and it adds to your to the beauty of your Italian if you can pick up a certain variant of Italian. I know people who've learned Italian in Florence, so they speak with a little bit of a Florentine accent. That's beautiful. So Marie and everybody else, so you know the theory, but depending on which Italian you decide to kind of pick up, it's going to be fine if you don't do the right e when when there's an accent on it. So the theory is that the top e with an accent sounds e. So you have it in words like caffè. And then the bottom one, the one with the other accent, is e. It's closed e, and you have it in words like perché, poiché, therefore, benché, however. So it's pretty common. But a lot of Italians will say perché, poiché, benché. It's totally fine. So don't worry too much about it. Okay, so now if there are no more questions, I'll spend the last 10 minutes talking about piacere. Piacere is the verb that we use for to like. Now I've got two questions from Laurie. I'm going to read them so I remember. The first one is your explanation of how to describe when you or another person like something or several things. However, when I go to Italy, I will be in different groups of people, and I think I will need to know how to say they like. Yep. So let me clear this. Now, granted that you remember that there's two forms of piacere that we are going to use the most. Piace, for when the object that we like is singular, and piacciono when we like many things. For simplicity and space on the whiteboard, I'm just going to leave piace. So if I say mi piace la pizza, that means I like pizza or pizza is pleasing to me. If I want to say you casual, as in my friend, because you may have friends and you don't need to speak to them formally, then you will say ti piace la pizza. That ti means to you, casual. Now, le piace la pizza has two meanings. It's the you like pizza as a formal approach, but that le also means to her. So you could say that she likes pizza this way, le piace la pizza. I'll tell you another way of saying this in a minute. Now, gli piace la pizza means pizza is pleasing to him. That gli means to him. So if you want to say he likes pizza, that's the one you can say, gli piace la pizza. Now, you can always replace the piace with piacciono if the thing that you like is plural. So, mi piacciono I dolci, I like sweets. Le piacciono I dolci, do you like sweets? And then we got ci piace, that ci means to us. So if we like something, I'm going to say ci piace. So you see how it's simple. I'm only changing the word before the whole sentence. Vi piace means you guys like. That vi means to you guys. And now the one that Laurie wants to know, when they like, we again use gli piace. So that gli piace could mean he likes or they like. And it's genderless when it means they like. So the answer to your question is, if you want to say they like pizza, you would say gli piace la pizza. If you want to say they like Italians, so gli piacciono, gli italiani, piacciono, because we're talking about Italians. So that's the full range of little words that you can use to mean to me, to you, to her, to us, to you guys, to them. Okay. So that's the first piece of the answer for you and for everybody who's interested. Like I mentioned, as a traveler, in most cases, Laurie has a specific situation where she's going to be in a group. So she'll say they like, they don't like. In your case, most of the times you'll say I like. You'll have to ask or understand, do you like? And then maybe you have to say we like or we don't like if you're traveling with somebody. So as a traveler, you care about the mi, the le, and the ci, mostly. The other ones are options. They're possibilities. Now, I want to tell you something that I haven't mentioned in the videos, but you could do this. When I say gli piace la pizza. That gli means to him, right? So pizza is pleasing to him. Now, but who's him? Like in English, we can use him when we know who we're talking about, right? So we can split any of these pronouns, any of these words, me, ti, le, and so on. We can split them into two words which make sense. It's going to make sense. When I say mi piace la pizza, I'm telling you that that me means to me. Yeah? Well, I could split that into the actual words to me, which in Italian is a me piace la pizza. The casual to you would be a te piace la pizza. The you like formal or she likes would be a lei piace la pizza. Okay, don't let this overwhelm you. You don't have to do it if you don't need, if you don't care. Okay, the other version is perfect. A lui piace la pizza. To him, pizza is pleasing. That is literally to him, as you can see. A lui, to him. A noi, to us. A voi, to you guys. And a loro, to them. So, Lori, here's another option for you. You could, because you could say, they like pizza, and you'd be pointing, right? Whenever you're pointing and you need to stress the who, it sounds much better if you can use this other version, like a loro piace la pizza. To them, pizza is pleasing. It's like you're stressing the to whom the pizza is pleasing. It's a weird concept, but once you understand this, you can see how I could change. If I want to say she likes pizza, but I want to say that Maria likes pizza. A Maria piace la pizza. To Maria, pizza is pleasing. Instead of a lui, a Marco piace la pizza. Let's get rid of that. A Marco piace la pizza. So instead of a loro, a Marco e Maria piace la pizza. Because the idea of something being pleasing to somebody, you have this option of using the to me, to her, to Marco, and so on. Like I said, in most cases, as a traveler, all you really need to know is to say mi piace or mi piacciono, and the negative non mi piace. Non mi piace, I don't like. You have to be able to understand le piace, do you like? Or non le piace, don't you like? Okay, so this is the focus for your entry-level Italian, if all you want to do is really understand what's going on and be able to communicate. And you'll be fine in most cases with those ones. Okay. And now, finally, unless there are more questions, I'll address another little issue that Lori has with the piacere verb. She's asking, but how do I say I like you? Or, you know, she likes him. Okay, well, so piacere is a highly irregular verb. If you look it up, piacere, on verbix.com, for example, it's going to give you the conjugation of any verb that you enter there. Like you go verbix, then you look for Italian, and then you enter a verb in Italian, like piacere or mangiare, and it's going to give you the whole conjugation. And you look at the present tense. Piacere has its full conjugation. Now, so far, I've only told you these two forms, piace and piacciono, because really, in most cases, you talk about liking things. So the one expression that is going to serve you the most is piace, which is the third person, like the, not io, not tu, it's the third one, le lei, piace. And then piacciono, which is the third plural, which is the one that means they like. Or they are pleasing, sorry. So piace means is pleasing, and piacciono means are pleasing, right? Now, piacere has the full conjugation. So I really have to warn you, ignore this, okay? I'm only doing this because I have 6 minutes left and Lori is asking, but this can confuse you. So go with piace and piacciono. Now, I'm just going to give you two. So the I version of piacere is piaccio. But piaccio means I am pleasing. Not I like, it means I am pleasing. So if I want to say, that's why to like is crazy. If I want to say you like me, you would say ti piaccio, means I am pleasing to you. You guys like me, vi piaccio, I am pleasing to you guys. Okay, so that's why it's a little bit tricky, but you can. So Laurie, look up the conjugation of piacere, and then think, who is being pleasing to whom? So who is being pleasing, that's what determines which verb you're going to use, piaccio, piaci, and so on. And the to whom is the little word that you put before. So that's as far as I will go with this. Otherwise, you really end up being confused. I don't want you to. I want to keep it simple. Piace and piacciono are the ones you're going to use the most. And before that, you put the whoever, the to whom that thing is pleasing. So whether it's me, you, and so on. So, okay, let me just check something. I would like to see when the video that I was talking about is going to show up. The one about groceries. I think it's tomorrow. I can't remember. Oh, I can't check now. Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. So tomorrow we also have a face-to-face chat. So for tomorrow, what we're going to work on is shopping. We'll do role playing and we'll be shopping. So you walk into my shop and we'll have conversation. It's going to be more than you know, but that's the idea. When you see me live and we speak Italian, it's always going to be challenging in the sense that, well, the idea is that it feels like what it's going to feel like in Italy. So it has to feel a little bit scary. It has to feel like I don't understand what you're saying. That's how you learn, being challenged a little bit at the time. So what I'll do is I'll challenge you to the point where I know you can use the other 66% of communication, which is the context and the what is it called? The non-language aspects of communication, which is personality and intonation and so on. Alright, so questo è tutto per oggi. Controlliamo che non ci sono altre domande. Ci sono altre domande? Vediamo. Dove sono le domande? No? Ok, sono contentissimo di lavorare con voi. It's always a great pleasure to work with you. Send your questions through at any time, really. You know, like, for example, Marie sent me a question that I didn't think I was going to address today, but there was time, so I did. But I'll respond to your questions in private if I don't think it's something that I can talk publicly about. So send your questions through to questions@speakitalianfromdayone.com at any time, really. And I'm always there to help you. And as we progress, we'll be practicing more and understanding more and speaking more Italian. Also, for Sunday, you're going to see that when we get to Sunday, I'm including a full documentary in Italian with no subtitles. As you get there, just remember that the idea is that you should expose yourself to Italian as much as you can. It doesn't mean that you should sit down and watch it and understand everything. It's a 2-hour documentary. You're going to see beautiful things about Rome. You might discover things because it's a documentary on hidden treasures, so things that I didn't even know about Rome. You'll see a lot of beautiful things and cool things. The idea is that you hear Italian and make an effort to understand. For example, if the host says something like, I remember this scene, I thought, wow, that's creepy, but I remember the host saying, ecco qui il teschio di una donna, which I understand that you wouldn't know teschio. You probably know donna if you got to the point of the 400 words. Donna means woman. But you don't know teschio. Well, he's pointing at a skull. So you'll see that, oh, teschio, skull. it's gonna be easier to make the connection if you relax. So try and do that on Sunday if you have time. It's gonna be there. Once something is published, stays there forever. So don't worry if you don't have time to go over the material. I understand it's a lot. The idea is that you do a little bit every day, but if it's too much, again, don't do it. Do less. Grazie mille e allora è stato un piacere. Ci vediamo domani nella live chat e la settimana prossima nel webinar per la settimana 3. Ok, buonasera o buona giornata e arrivederci.